Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the theater lights flickered to life, bathing the stage in a soft, amber hue, the seasoned Professor Williams strode across the wooden floorboards, a blend of authority and anticipation in his gait. The anxious energy in the air was tangible as the audition results were about to be announced, much to the anticipation of the gathered thespians. "There's a predicament we must address," Professor Williams revealed, a deep furrow forming on his brow as his gaze surveyed the audition notes on his clipboard. "Our casting is imbalanced. We are lacking in female talent for this production." One student, Ellis, with a thatch of golden hair that shone under the lights, couldn't suppress a nervous twitch. The university's decision to perform Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest was widely applauded, but the gender disparity among the auditionees meant roles may have to be reimagined. "Canceling is not an option," the professor affirmed, determined to find a solution. "We will innovate with our casting." Ellis, whose heart had yearned for a minor role to complement his literary studies, couldn't help but feel a building wave of nervousness as the professor proceeded, his name about to be uttered by the distinguished lecturer. "Ellis, your audition was a standout. How would you feel about taking on the role of Cecily?" A ripple of murmurs spread through the assembled students. Ellis felt his face flush hot with embarrassment. "Me? But that's a woman's role," he stammered. "It's actually quite traditional," Professor Williams explained. "In Shakespeare's time, all roles were played by men. Besides, you have the right energy for the character. Innocent, but clever. Your voice has good range, and with the right costume and makeup, you could be quite convincing." Ellis glanced around the room, noting the mixture of curious and amused expressions on his fellow cast members' faces. I don't know anything about playing a woman," he admitted. Marissa, the student director, spoke up. "It's acting, Ellis. You're playing a character, just like any other role. We'll help with all the technical aspects." After a moment's hesitation, Ellis nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." The weeks of rehearsal that followed proved more challenging than Ellis had anticipated, learning to move differently, to adopt feminine mannerisms, without turning the character into a caricature required careful observation and practice. But gradually, something unexpected happened. As Ellis spent more time inhabiting Cecily's character, he found himself enjoying the role in ways he hadn't expected. 3 days before opening night, the costume department fitted him in the full ensemble. A cream-colored Victorian dress with lace trim, complete with a corset underneath that altered his silhouette dramatically. When he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. "Something's still missing," Marissa said, studying his appearance with a critical eye. "The wig works, but the makeup isn't quite right." Ellis had been avoiding thinking too much about the makeup aspect. The costume department had a student handling it, but her skills were basic at best. "I wish I knew more about this stuff," he admitted, touching his face uncertainly. That evening in his apartment, Ellis mentioned the makeup concerns during his weekly phone call with his mother. "Oh, sweetheart, that sounds like such an interesting challenge," his mother said. "You know, I was in theater back in college, too. Have you tried a good lipstick? The right shade can transform a face entirely." "The makeup artist has some stuff, but it doesn't look right," Ellis explained, surprised to find himself genuinely concerned about this detail. "I'm coming to see the show this weekend anyway. I'll bring you my favorite mauve lipstick. It's perfect. Not too bright, not too dark. It'll give you that natural, feminine look without being overdone." The night before opening, his mother arrived and presented him with a slender gold tube. "This has been my signature color for years," she said, handing over the lipstick. "It's called Twilight Satin. The texture is lovely, not drying at all." Ellis accepted it with a mixture of gratitude and awkwardness. "Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it." In the dressing room on opening night, Ellis carefully applied the mauve lipstick, following the natural curve of his lips. The color was subtle, but transformative, exactly as his mother had promised. Combined with the light foundation, blush, and mascara, the effect was startling. He didn't look like a man in makeup. He looked like Cecily. The performance went brilliantly. Ellis found himself fully immersed in the role, moving across the stage with a newfound grace. The audience laughed at all the right moments, and when the final curtain fell, the applause was thunderous. "You were amazing," his mother gushed afterward, embracing him despite the fact he was still in full costume. "I barely recognized you up there." "Thanks," Ellis said, feeling a strange reluctance about removing the costume and makeup. "I actually had fun with it." Over the next few days, as the production continued its run, Ellis found himself looking forward to the transformation each night. The weight of the wig, the gentle restriction of the corset, the swish of fabric around his legs. These sensations had become oddly comforting. When the final performance ended and he packed away Cecily's costume for the last time, Ellis felt an unexpected pang of loss. Back in his apartment, he discovered he'd absent-mindedly pocketed his mother's mauve lipstick. He placed it on his dresser, intending to return it, but found himself reaching for it the next evening. Alone in his bathroom, he carefully applied it, studying his reflection with growing fascination. The following week, Ellis found himself browsing through a thrift store, ostensibly looking for books, when a lavender sweater dress caught his eye. The soft, knit fabric looked comfortable, and something about the color spoke to him. On impulse, he added it to his pile of purchases, telling the cashier it was a gift for his girlfriend. That night, he tried on the dress, coupled with the mauve lipstick. The reflection that stared back at him stirred something profound that he couldn't articulate. He quickly changed back into his jeans and t-shirt, hanging the dress in the back of his closet behind his winter coats. But the dress didn't stay hidden for long. Over the next few weeks, Ellis found himself drawn to it repeatedly, eventually ordering a simple pair of flats in his size from an online store. Each time he dressed in these clothes, he felt a peculiar sense of rightness that both thrilled and terrified him. The spring semester ended, and Ellis moved into a summer sublet across town while taking a couple of courses to get ahead on credits. The new apartment, and the anonymity of being in a different neighborhood, provided an unexpected freedom. He began to venture out for short walks in the evening, dressed in the lavender dress and flats, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. One evening in July, Ellis was browsing online when he stumbled across a forum for transgender individuals. He began reading personal stories, and the sense of recognition was overwhelming. The descriptions of disconnect and discovery resonated deeply with the feelings he'd been experiencing since the play. After several nights of reading, Ellis created an anonymous account and posted his own story: the play, the lipstick, the hidden clothes, and the confusing mix of emotions. The responses were immediate and supportive. "What you're describing sounds like gender dysphoria," one person replied. "Many of us have similar experiences of our true selves being unlocked by seemingly random events, like your theatrical role." Another commented, "The feeling of rightness when presenting as female is something many trans women describe. It might be worth talking to a gender therapist to sort through these feelings." The suggestion of a therapist both frightened and relieved Ellis. The idea that there might be a framework for understanding these feelings, that he wasn't alone in this experience, was deeply comforting. After researching therapists who specialized in gender identity, Ellis made an appointment with Dr. Reynolds, a compassionate woman with over 20 years of experience in the field. "Tell me about when you first began questioning your gender," she prompted during their initial session. Ellis described the play, surprised by the emotion that welled up as he spoke. "It wasn't just about wearing different clothes. When I was Cicely, I felt authentic in a way I'd never experienced before." Over the next few months, through regular sessions with Dr. Reynolds and continued exploration of his gender identity, Ellis began to accept that he might be transgender. The term both terrified and liberated him. "I don't know how to tell anyone," he confessed during one session. "My parents, my friends, they've always known me as Ellis." "Many people find it helpful to begin with small steps," Dr. Reynolds suggested. "Perhaps try out a name and pronouns here, in this safe space, and see how they feel." Ellis thought for a moment. "I've always liked the name Annika. It was my grandmother's name. She was Swedish." "Annika," Dr. Reynolds repeated. "That's a beautiful name. Shall I use that and female pronouns today, and we can see how it feels for you?" By the time fall semester began, Ellis had started privately thinking of himself as Annika, testing the waters by creating new social media accounts under this name where she could connect with other trans individuals. Her collection of feminine clothing had grown to include several dresses, white pleated skirts, and a pair of strappy sandals that she particularly loved. October brought cooler weather and a growing certainty. After a particularly powerful therapy session, Annika decided it was time to speak with her closest friend, Daniel. They met at a quiet coffee shop off campus. Daniel arrived, spotted Ellis at a corner table, and waved as he ordered his drink. "Hey man, haven't seen you much this semester," Daniel said, sliding into the seat across from her. "How's the lit program treating you?" Annika took a deep breath. "Good, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. There's something important I need to tell you." Daniel's expression grew serious. "Everything okay?" "Yes, well, I think it will be." Annika wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, drawing strength from its warmth. "Do you remember that play I was in last spring, when I played Cecily?" Daniel grinned. "How could I forget? You were surprisingly good at it." "That role, it changed something for me. It helped me realize something I think I've always known but never had the words for." Annika paused, heart hammering. "I'm transgender, Daniel. I'm a woman." Daniel's eyebrows shot up, and for a terrifying moment, Annika thought she'd made a horrible mistake. Then his expression softened. "Wow, that's big. I don't know what to say except thank you for trusting me with this." He hesitated. "So, should I call you something different now?" "Annika," she said, the name feeling right on her lips. "I'd like to be called Annika." Daniel nodded, processing. "Annika, I like it. It suits you somehow." The simple acceptance in those words brought tears to her eyes. "You're the first person I've told, outside of my therapist." "I'm honored," Daniel said sincerely. "And whatever you need, I'm here." Emboldened by Daniel's support, Annika gradually began coming out to other close friends, receiving mostly positive reactions. There were uncomfortable questions and occasional misunderstandings, but the relief of living authentically outweighed these challenges. The approaching winter break brought a new anxiety, telling her parents. She decided to visit home a week before Christmas, giving the family time to process before the holiday itself. Annika packed carefully for the trip, including mostly gender-neutral clothing, but also the mauve lipstick that had started her journey. Her mother had never asked for it back, and it had become something of a talisman. The familiar drive to her childhood home in the suburbs felt surreal. Annika parked in the driveway, taking several deep breaths before grabbing her overnight bag from the passenger seat. Her father answered the door, enveloping her in a bear hug. "Good to see you, Ellis. Your mother's just finishing dinner. Perfect timing." The meal passed with the usual casual conversation about courses, campus news, and local gossip. As her mother began clearing plates, Annika caught her father's eye. "Can we talk after dinner? All of us? There's something important I need to discuss." Her parents exchanged a quick glance, that universal parental communication that conveyed concern without words. "Of course," her mother said. "Let's go to the living room when the dishes are done." 20 minutes later, they sat in the familiar living room where Annika had opened Christmas presents, watched movies, and built blanket forts throughout her childhood. Now she was about to fundamentally change her place in this family narrative. "Mom, Dad, this is difficult to explain, but I've been working with a therapist for several months about something I've discovered about myself." Annika's voice trembled slightly. "Do you remember that play last spring, when I played a female character?" Her mother nodded. "Cicely, you were wonderful. That experience helped me realize something I think I've always felt but never understood." Annika took another steadying breath. "I'm transgender. I identify as a woman. I've been living as female on campus for the past few months, and I've chosen the name Annika." The silence that followed seemed to stretch endlessly. Her father's brow furrowed in confusion, while her mother's hand rose to cover her mouth.
"Is this because of that theater role?"
her father finally asked.
"Because playing a part doesn't mean—"
"No, Dad," Annika interrupted gently.
"The role just helped me recognize feelings I've had all my life, but didn't have a framework to understand. I've been working with a specialist, Dr. Reynolds. This isn't a phase or a confusion. It's who I am." Her mother lowered her hand, revealing a trembling smile. "Annika was my mother's name." "I know," Annika said softly. "I always loved it, and it felt right." "This is a lot to process," her father said, his voice gruff with emotion. "I don't understand it, I'll be honest, but you're my child."
"That doesn't change." Her mother moved to sit beside Annika on the couch, taking her hand. "We love you. That's unconditional. The rest, we'll figure out together." The conversation continued late into the night, with questions, tears, and moments of both tension and tenderness. By the time they all retired to bed, exhausted but connected, Annika felt a weight lifting that she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. The following morning, Annika came downstairs to find her mother at the kitchen table, a small gift bag before her. "I couldn't sleep much," her mother admitted. "I kept thinking about what you said, about how my lipstick was part of this journey for you." She pushed the bag toward Annika. "I went to the mall when it opened." Inside, Annika found 3 tubes of lipstick, all in similar mauve shades to the original Twilight Satin.
"I thought you might
like some options," her mother explained. "And I bought myself new ones too. I thought maybe we could share this little thing as mother and daughter." Annika's eyes filled with tears as she embraced her mother. "Thank you," she whispered. When she returned to campus after winter break, Annika began the process of social transition in earnest. She informed her professors of her name change, met with university administration about updating records, and began researching medical options with Dr. Reynolds' guidance. The spring semester brought new challenges but also growing confidence. Annika experimented with different styles, finding that she preferred simple, elegant clothes in soft fabrics. The lavender sweater dress remained a favorite, now paired with proper accessories and shoes that fit correctly. By March, she had begun hormone therapy, documenting the subtle changes with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The process was slower than she'd expected, but each small shift, softer skin, slight changes in body fat distribution, felt like steps toward alignment. 1 year after the fateful production of The Importance of Being Earnest, the drama department announced auditions for their new spring play. Annika stood before the notice board, contemplating whether to audition. "You should do it," came a voice beside her. She turned to find Professor Williams, his silver-rimmed glasses now accompanied by more silver in his hair. "I don't know if I'm ready," she admitted. "Annika," he said, using her name naturally. "You were always a good actor. Your gender has nothing to do with that talent." She smiled at the simple truth of his statement. "I'll think about it." The following week, Annika found herself back in the familiar audition room, but everything else had changed. She wore a simple white pleated skirt with a blue blouse, her growing blonde hair styled in a short bob. When Professor Williams called her name, her true name, she stepped forward with confidence that had been absent a year ago. Her audition earned her the role of Laura in The Glass Menagerie, a challenging, nuanced female character. As she threw herself into rehearsals, Annika reflected on the circular nature of her journey. Theater had opened the door to her true self, and now her true self was returning to the stage. On opening night, as she prepared in the dressing room, Annika uncapped the tube of mauve lipstick, one of the ones her mother had given her at Christmas. Applying it carefully, she smiled at her reflection, recognizing the woman who had always existed beneath the surface. Her mother and father sat in the front row, watching with pride as their daughter brought Laura to life with sensitive nuance. After the performance, they presented her with a bouquet of lilacs that matched her favorite lavender dress.
"You found yourself," her mother said, embracing her. "And in doing so, you helped us find a daughter we didn't know we had." 1 year after discovering her truth, Annika stood confident in her identity. The journey hadn't been easy, and many challenges remained ahead, but she faced them as her authentic self. The theatrical role that had sparked her self-discovery had given her the greatest gift possible, the courage to step onto the stage of her own life, no longer playing a part, but living as her true self. As she walked across campus in her strappy sandals and favorite white pleated skirt, sunlight catching her blonde hair, Annika felt a profound gratitude for the serendipitous casting choice that had set her on this path. What had begun with borrowed lipstick and a Victorian costume had blossomed into a life of authenticity. The world stage was wide open before her, and for the first time, she was playing exactly the role she was born to play, herself.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!